Hello, folks. Welcome to Freepcast. My name is Joe Spear, managing editor of the Mankato Free Press. Today, we're giving Rob Murray another day off, and joining us is Casey Eck, our photographer, videographer, music producer, man of multiple talents.
Magician.
And we're just talking of musician yourself.
I said magician, but I was
musician
I don't know,
and singer. And, yeah. We'll give you credit for a lot of things here. I want to thank our sponsor for making this happen. The podcast is sponsored by Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union, happily serving those who live, work, or do business in Blue Earth, Nicollet, LeSueur, Waseca, Brown, or Watonwan County since 1934. I should have that memorized by now.
You'd think, yeah.
But absolutely, if you get anything out of this podcast, folks, give them a shout out. A lot of news happening. Some just this morning, another shooting in Mankato. Police have taken 4 individuals into custody. Happened yesterday afternoon at 5 p.m. No one was hurt. If I read the initial report, there were some gunshots over by Agency Road and Redwood Drive, which is in that kind of east area, right? Mm-hmm. Off of Main Street, between Main Street.
Yeah, right where that road work is kind of taking place.
Right. So another shooting, unusual. We'll have to, dig down into what's behind a lot of these. We still are thinking about those shootings up at MSU. There's still a couple that are still not resolved.
Yeah,
there's no suspects.
Murder last October. There's the person still at large. It's my understanding. Yeah. So crazy stuff. And then
crazy stuff. And then we have another fentanyl death. Person, girlfriend, boyfriend. Boyfriend is charged now with, allowing her to take fentanyl. I guess that plays out differently in the courts. It's sad. Again, a sad story. Somebody asked me last night at the Free Press outing. We had the event. We had a brews and news event at Pub 500, something we're trying to do. And join us next time we have one, because they're kind of fun. It's just a very informal situation where readers come and ask us questions about different stories. And somebody came up to me and just said, you guys watch the news a lot. You've seen a lot of things. You've been here 35 years. How are we doing as a community? And I said to him, I think we're doing well. I think we're doing okay. We've got people who like to get things done. We've got committees. We've got nonprofits that, get involved in social issues, like the United Way has had a town meeting on this fentanyl issue. But we still got problems, and fentanyl is one I kept bringing up. We're going to have to do an update on that. I know Brian Arla, who was following that for us, left for another job, and we have police reporter now, Leah Call, who's going to be following up with authorities and the drug task force and updating our numbers on that. That report will be coming in the next few months, so watch for it. It'll just measure if we're having any progress. I thought it was interesting. One of the news releases we got recently about a drug bust was from the drug task force, and they seemed to make a point of mentioning this person who was arrested was previously arrested and out on bail. My sense was they are getting frustrated with that, and they're including it in news releases now, which you've not seen them do before.
Yeah, that seems a little loaded, doesn't it? And I think there's some amount of frustration amongst the public too about the slaps on the wrists we're seeing for some of this stuff, and more serious. Well, not to say that someone's life being lost is not serious, but the real assaults that are point A to point B type assaults that people are getting slapped on the wrist for. I think people are perceiving that, at least, and so there seems to be some frustration with our justice system in that regard.
Agreed, and we'll have to follow up and do some stories on that, asking people why. And I think I know the answer, but it may be worth exploring again. I mean, because they'll point to the sentencing guidelines, and they'll point to our jails are crowded, people aren't meeting the conditions of bail, whatever. So maybe there's just a bigger discussion to have there at some point. A couple things, bad news, shootings and fentanyl. Hot topic of Rapidan Dam came up again. We did a story in today's paper. It was at the county board yesterday. Engineers brought in new estimates for taking down the dam and fixing the bridge. replacing the bridge, and it's right at $90 million now, it sounds like. But it was an interesting discussion, and we were there because it was a work session. And by the way, they don't live stream work sessions. Not sure why, or record them. But
it's kind of a common thing too. I know a lot of
I'd like to see them do it.
Yeah, me too.
Just because it gives public more access to this super all-important issue. But it's going to be a long road to do the whole project. And I think there was some frustration being expressed by some of the locals in the engineering that there's so many agencies involved, because FEMA is going to be involved. So we got some federal money for the storm damage to the bridge, to the road part of it, $5 million, already got it. But it sounds like it's really a challenge to coordinate with all the agencies. And then there's some concern that the timelines are going to really pressure people to get pieces of it done. Like if you don't have the FEMA part done, or some part of it done by a certain timeline, you risk losing that money. And I think the board was kind of expressing frustration that, we can't do this without their money. We've really got to figure out all the timelines and how to deal with the bureaucracy. And I'm sure that's a full-time job in itself for the consultants, just to know the backbone of the federal.
Yeah, just knowing how many times that I've been on hold just trying to get passport stuff figured out. I mean, just imagining the phone calls that go unanswered and something like that. That would be grating.
And it sounds like the research you have to do to make your report. To you have to have the studies, you have to have the data.
Right. Just the research is costly. Just
laborious.
To get the correct paperwork is not free.
Yeah. So that's going to be a multi-year story we'll continue to cover, and we'll be there for all of it. Interesting development. Kind of a fun story we came across. I believe Mike Lagerquist got this one, where the Lake Crystal mechanic found a wallet in a car he was fixing, and it was determined to be an auto worker, right, who worked on the car in Michigan 11 years ago. God, you can believe that? I mean, losing a wallet is one thing, and geez, all your credit cards and everything, and then somebody coming up with it, it had fallen down in some kind of manifold, something that must have obviously protected it for 11 winters in Minnesota. Just kind of one of those incredible stories. Anyway, the guy made efforts to track down the guy who had it and got it back to him. Thank Facebook, I guess. I think he did a Facebook search on the guy, didn't he? And so that was a fun story. We had in the fentanyl case, I want to go back to that. A thing I want to point out that journalists do sometimes have to do that a lot of these other news sources won't or can't do. So the authorities didn't give us the name of the victim right away, and that is required by Minnesota statute 13.82. We've dealt with this for 35 years, so we know the statute and we know the subdivision. It's under incident reports, and the Minnesota law is great. A lot of states don't have our open records law, and so we should really feel fortunate about that. But
for now,
the statute, good point. The statute requires the victim be named. Now, and newspapers always do allow for a little room if the family hasn't been notified. You don't want to, someone find out about it in the newspaper. Right. But usually authorities are pretty good at letting everybody know who's involved, the family. So it shouldn't be more than a day. And we had requested the name from the authorities, and with St. Peter Police Department did the investigation, and Nicollet County Attorney handled the case. Actually, the law doesn't really refer to the county attorney providing the name. It refers to the arresting agency, so the St. Peter Police. But to their credit, we cited the statute. We said, according to 1382, we're supposed to get this, and they eventually took over the weekend, I believe, to look at it and agree we were right, and they provided the name, I think, Monday. Mm-hmm. But that is one thing, professional journalists and people who have done this for a long time will know, and it's one advantage you have as a reader to get the information you need because professional people, experienced people are getting it and know how to get it. So your news person who springs up online in a couple of weeks probably won't do that. So I always want to point that out to people. I think it's sometimes assumed that, well, you're a journalist, you just go around and ask people questions and whatever, put it in.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that goes into writing a single sentence sometimes.
Yeah. Kind of a big discussion, North Mankato City Council the other night about a planning project to review some development space, some acres of development, and the council has to kind of approve the planning idea. It's called an urban area development plan, and they asked for public comment, but nothing in the plan. There was some criticism from a lawyer for an environmental group. Nothing in the plan said anything about data center, and we know that issue has been kind of cropping up, talking about possible data center. North Mankato has been listed in our own stories and other stories around the state and Star Tribune about a possible location for a data center. They're not saying it because they don't have any confirmation from anybody else, but people in the know in that business are saying, yeah, data centers are looking at these sites around the state. And the only thing North Mankato has is a kind of an informal request by consultants to, I guess, look at different areas or, let people know they're interested, but they're not. We tried to connect it to a data center company and we couldn't. It's just consultants and they're kind of very hush-hush about it. So people were saying, well, you're not telling us because it's all about a data center. And Tom Hagen, we know him well as a North Mankato citizen who voices his opinion, said, it is a data center, it appears to be, and you're not telling us. And city officials say, well, it's not confirmed anywhere, anyhow, by anyone of interest in this. So I think there was some kind of public comments. And again, this lawyer from the Center, I think it's the Center for Environmental Advocacy, has been going around to different places in the state to talk to councils about these reviews. And I got a call from one of their lawyers after the story saying, if we want to follow up, if they believe these kind of planning actions by city councils are strategies that data companies use to kind of get around some of the more stringent environmental reviews. So that's a story we'll continue to follow.
Yeah, and to the point of the public comment period, we saw this with the AI cameras in Mankato that people kind of didn't realize it was happening or didn't feel compelled to comment on these things. Well, this is something that is in its nascent phase, and so if you feel a certain way, one way or the other, now would be the time, not a few months or maybe a year from now, right, to make your voice heard one way or the other. So keep that in mind as this develops. Is that now, not later, would be that time. Here it is.
Related to the AI issue at Mankato City Hall, we got asked about that last night, and Mark Fishnick, who did the reporting on it, mentioned, and this is true, we'd done 3, 4, 5 stories prior to that meeting about the proposal, the very detailed, specific proposal for the additional cameras, for the AI watch list, for everything. And these folks who showed up at the meeting said it was like the first time they'd heard about it. So they obviously, a big disconnect, don't read our paper. And I get that. A lot of young people don't gravitate toward a newspaper. Hence, newspapers have podcasts where we're trying to give it, easy to you, let you know what's happening.
And it's free.
And then you listen to podcasts, then you want to follow up and say, hey, they've done something on this. You can, Google it. You can buy a day pass to the Free Press. I think it's the same as like buying a paper, but you could have a day pass to everything for like $2 or something like that. So there are ways out there, young folks, that you can access this and get more information and, don't just rely on the city to expect, to be notifying you via text message. Hey, we're talking about AI today.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're doing this contentious thing. Yeah, you're right. As they're going to distill that.
Yeah.
For you.
They're not going to do that. So, another lesson, I guess, just to, we're trying to reach out podcasts, every way to reach young folks. We know young folks want to get engaged now, especially now. So it's a prime opportunity in a way for us to somehow reach out. If you have ideas on how we should reach out more, we're open to that. Let us know. We just can't give everything away free. We can promote it. We can tell you it's out there. But, we still have to run a business. Other interesting, just worth noting, longtime assistant East basketball coach Tony Ball takes over for Joe Madsen. Was fun to see that story. He knows the team, he knows the system, so it should be an easy transition for that.
And a great name for a basketball coach.
Very.
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure I'm the first person to make that joke.
For a very strong program that I'm sure will continue. Other than that, we lost a great symphony conductor, Ken Freed, who was at the MSO for many years. And we did a story on him, and he was participating in a triathlon and had health issues and didn't make it. Yeah. So our sympathies to his family and everyone who knew Ken. He was a very influential and dynamic symphony leader here, and we've got a good symphony, a really good symphony, a lot of people say, for a town this size. So great for that. That a lot of extra news. I do have a quote of the week, but I want to just remind people how they can subscribe and support this effort. You can subscribe by calling 625-3764. Easy way. Just call them up. I want to subscribe. You can email us at readerservice@mankatofreepress.com or go to our website and just click on the subscribe button. You can also order reprints of photos, sports photos, high school sports, anything you want, anything that's been in the Free Press. SPX Sports Photo does our reprints, 345-7196. We also have a button on our website to order photos. So that leads me to the quote of the week, and it's not really a quote. It's I read all the letters to the editor that we get, and some of them just really strike me at times, and I wanted to highlight this one. It's from Dennis Seamer. I think a lot of people know Denny in town. But he was reacting to a column we provided that was written by a syndicated columnist about 4th of July freedoms. And the columnist was from the Heritage Foundation, a very conservative group. And the guy, Denny, says the columnist defines freedom almost entirely in terms of freedom from government. Taxes, regulations, and surveillance are cast as oppressive chains. But this overlooks another foundational perspective, one grounded in justice, fairness, and mutual responsibility. Taxes, far from being chains, can express our commitment to the common good. When invested in education, health, infrastructure, and safety, they help ensure that all citizens, not just the wealthy or well-connected, can pursue their life goals with dignity and security. Thanks, Denny. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
See you.
See you next time.